Welcome to Term 2. Let's start with an overview first of your lesson block. Lesson block should start with a daily review, either through the SSP kits or you create your own PowerPoint, teaching of not 5 different levels and not streaming students, but ideally the teacher retains 3 levels of word lists to teach to the whole class so that students uplearn and also revise back. Then there is the I'm going to demonstrate what you're going to do, or we might do it together, and then you return back to your seats to an independent task. So here, early in the week, are your speech sound mapping tasks, your orthographic mapping. Midweek is vocabulary. End of week is phonic dictation. This is quite typical for a Year 3-4 class. If, however, your students are mainly located in stages 5 and 6, there will be 2 days of vocabulary work and 1 day of phonic dictation. PLD does not recommend a spelling test on Friday. However, if you need to keep a group busy while you're delivering a group of dictation, they can partner to test. But PLD's preference is that the teacher is engaged in teaching rather than the delivery of a weekly spelling test. Again, here's a format that's also in your manuals of starting with your daily review, teaching, retargeted teaching lists, the I do or the we do before sending students off to their independent task. So all lessons should start with a daily review. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What we're going to do is revise the last 3 weeks of content. The integrated SSP kits that are being rolled out make this easier by providing Tier 1 where students should be, Tier 2 a little bit behind Tier 3. Teachers need to map in these concepts. The high frequency words, the phonic concepts, there's some whole class spelling and sentence writing within those daily reviews. Teaching 3 targeted teaching lists. So starting with that orthographic mapping over 2 days. Explain what is the phonic concept, what is the digraph, the trigraph, the syllable unit in the first list, reading and sounding out the words bridge, b-r-i-j, b-r-i-j, bridge. And in this list here, what is the phonic concept? And then we're going to sound out in, tell, gent, in, tell, gent, and as well as the final group, as well as along the way defining and discussing any of those tricky vocabulary words. 4 words on a Monday, 4 words on a Tuesday, 4 words on a Wednesday. The students uplearn, but they also back revise. Teaching those 3 concepts, again, you'll find scripting inside your manuals to reference. If students are slow to progress or you're disappointed with your Term 1 results, work the speech sound mapping more. Infection, 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 infection. Match, 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 match. The I do. My turn to demonstrate. So we're going to use either alternating colours or those Elkonen boxes. If your word is twilight, twilight, twilight. Say the sound units, in this case they're syllables, and then write them twilight. If your word is first, st. Can be sounding out loud or it can be silently. If the word shed, sh-ed, sh-ed. Speak the sound, map it. Speak the sound, map it. Speak the sound, map it. Or we could do this together rather than I demonstrate one word, one word, one word. Let's do it together, Tuesday and Wednesday, where we write together 1 word or 2 words from each of those lists. And finally, in your lesson block structure early in the week, then you're going to set a timer for 15 minutes and students go back to their allocated seats to complete the task. So rather than streaming, rather than rotating groups, Everyone is completing the same task, but their words differ. They receive teaching across the 3 levels. However, their allocated task for their independent task is relative to whichever list they've been allocated. Remember, in stages 3, 4, 5 and 6, there are phonic units that are also meaning units, and this increases even more significantly when students move into stages 5 and stages 6. Midweek, now that you can read and spell those words, we need to make sure that students are understanding those increasingly complex words. There are many tasks that you'll find in your time saver templates for midweek. Expansion. Now, bing, bing, bing. Let's map it with what do you associate with the word expansion, because you should be making connections with words. Or purify, modify, clarify, rectify, identify, justify. We're going to focus on half of the words in your list, rewrite them in alternating colour so you're still speech sound mapping, but what is a word or 2 words that are synonyms? And if you are not familiar enough with those words, you can access your dictionary. End of week, phonic dictation, because now just because you can spell those words does not mean that those spelling words are going to transfer into your written work. And if stage 3, 4, it'll be 2 days of dictation. If mainly it's a stage 5, 6 in your class, it will be purely 1 day of dictation. Unfortunately, I do need to cover this because a number of you will have students that are located in stages 1 and 2 at a junior primary level in a middle and upper primary class. PLD recommends a double reading, 2 readings of those phonic passages, as well as then followed by 1 10-minute period of dictation. So the first reading of that passage will involve decoding, not of every word, but only that key phonic pattern. A, t, r, a, n, train was p, a, n, t, painted red. Then the t, r, a, n, train went along a track, but it started to r, a, n, rain. So the first reading with decoding, the second reading straight into fluent reading. So 2 readings, then pencils down and listening, and we're going to engage in phonic dictation. As students hit stage 3, it is purely a single reading, not a double reading, no need to do the decoding unless your stage 3s are not moving. And then we would speech sound map and do print to speech and speech to print with those words, those key words. But by stage 3, chances are it is 1 reading and then into your 10 minutes of dictation. In the middle of the jungle, in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of the jungle, what are you going to write? So you're going to repeat, 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 hold it in their memory, their working memory, that section of a sentence. Then you're going to say, what are you going to write? Because hearing that sentence structure is good. Speaking it back it works their language profiles. In the middle of the jungle, go. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Pencils down. A table stood in a puddle, full stop. A table stood in a puddle, full stop. A table stood in a puddle, full stop. What are you going to write? A table stood in a puddle, full stop, go. And writing as much as you can in that 10-minute period. Sometimes teachers feel they need to push students through the stages, but over time, slow down and work broadly. You can present a passage in a challenging way, increase the speed of the presentation, the amount of information they're holding in their working memory. Pencils down, that is always changeable, full stop. That is always changeable, full stop. That is always changeable, full stop. Go. So there is support available through the PLD website. This concludes Term 2 of the Essentials for Middle and Upper Primary. Wishing you a wonderful term of teaching. If you found this information useful, don't forget to click the subscribe button and check out our related videos shown here. If you have any questions or feedback, please add them to the comments below and we'll be sure to respond. Otherwise, you can reach us via live chat on our website, pld-literacy.org. Thanks again for viewing.